Remind everybody that we're here. Um, but yeah, so welcome back to another episode of breaking down parallel and the different parallels that exist, right? Today we're going to talk about Kathari, but I pulled up this little graphic announcement that was shared because this is way more exciting than anything else we could talk about. Closed alpha release coming February 28th. Do we want to start with that before we segue into Kathari stuff?
Koji, that's all you.
Yeah. I mean, it's super exciting. We have a list of people, select list of people that we are letting in to play the game, to give us some data that we can work off of, to get some impressions, and really just to let it loose into the world and just see what people think. I can't wait until people are relentlessly DMing me about cards that need buffs or nerfs or how much my game sucks. So looking forward to that date real bad. No, just kidding. It's gonna be great. I'm super excited. We've been working so long, and just the idea of putting it into people's hands, it's like kind of scary, but also just kind of amazing. I can't wait to get people's real impressions. Mind you, it is an alpha, so like it's still a work in progress. Things aren't set in stone. Not all the visual and audio cues are in there. There's some UX things that whatever. I could caveat the hell out of it, but people are going to come in, they're going to play. It's going to be amazing. And there's a survey. I think it's still up. I'm not sure. Maybe Fitch can answer this one, but
I think we took it down.
Oh, we took it down?
Yeah,
well, you know what? There'll be room for a lot of people. I'm sure we'll be able to sneak some people in if you really, really want access. So just join our Discord and bug people at Rebel Spy on the Discord if you want alpha access.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that we took the survey down just because we were pretty well oversubscribed, but you can still register via parallel.life /early access. And that will at minimum put you in, the queue for beta. And potentially, we want to replenish some people in the pools for alpha. So obviously we want like a variety of different kind of cuts of people. And so, topping up those groups is something that we can and probably will do. So it's definitely worth still, putting your hat in the ring, so to speak. And yeah, I think we're really excited. As Koji said, it's a daunting thing to put it out there for the first time like this, but we've been playing it and it's really impressive for an alpha for one. And then just in general, it's like a really fun game. And I think like the level of, detail, getting to see, I don't want to ruin anything, but getting to see certain things in there that you may not expect to see for an alpha, I think people will be pleasantly surprised and or impressed. And at least the gameplay loop itself is awesome. We know that like the game is really, really fun. Obviously there's plenty of known bugs and the UX isn't where it's going to be, 6 months from now, but it is really enjoyable in its current state. And I'm very excited for people to see it.
Yeah. I also know there's a few creators that are very competitive and love TCGs that would love to get in there and throw down too.
We got you, Ali.
I think we're gonna see some of their decks too in a little bit.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think like for perspective, because we get this question a lot. People are like, oh, can I stream? Can I do this? We're kind of saying no streaming for now, just because it isn't, a fully polished up version. But certainly working with you all, working with Ali, working with maybe a few others, we would allow certain videos to go out so that people can see it, and we do want people to see it, but we are cognizant of the fact that it is an alpha and it's not, certain things will be broken. We know that they're broken. Certain things won't look the way that we want them to look in an end state. So we don't want to necessarily suggest to the broader world that that's, what the finished product is either. However, we do want to get people exposed to how the game plays. And so I think, there's definitely opportunities to do that.
Or maybe I just get so tired and I'm then just not precious about it at all. And I'm just like, fuck it, let's just play a game on stream right now. Who knows? Anything could happen.
Hey, that's why people need to keep tuning in.
That's
Yeah.
right. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
Although I'm beginning to question whether Ali's judgment as far as this game's concerned is valid. I just read a take about how she hates peanut butter, and I'm just like, what? My
Wow.
whole world is just like upside down now. I don't know what
Yeah,
to
I
think.
saw that.
Honestly, I shouldn't have tweeted it. It's gonna change people's perception of me forever moving forward.
It's art. Yeah. I'm a little
Grade
concerned.
grade A engagement farming though.
Yeah.
True. That's a good
Peanut
Yeah,
point.
butter
I'm
is my
I'm a big nerd and a big peanut butter fan, but I just got my mind blown that apparently most of the protein in the peanut butter doesn't get absorbed. And I just was like, I thought it was healthy. So those
It's a
spoonfuls
scam.
really
Peanut butter's a scam. You've all been lied to.
bring big peanut butter down.
Yeah, this is
kid you
now
not, I
turned
used
into
to-
this is a parallel.
Sorry.
This is a peanut butter hate stream now.
Yeah.
I'm out.
I've
That
read
reason
that,
I'm out.
I've read that peanut butter you get more fat than you do protein. So
Fat's good too, man.
That's
We've
okay.
come
I'm a
full circle
keto
on
guy,
fat.
so
Yeah, we've come full circle on fat.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to, no joke, eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every single day. Like I used to come home, that was my after school meal. So the slander hurts my heart, Ali.
Sorry. Well, imagine
I'll get over
being me growing up as a child and, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and Reese's peanut butter cups, How ostracized did I feel
you
throughout
missed
all
out
that time?
on Uncrustables. That's the
Yep.
real that's
Uncrustables.
the real L. It's
Yeah,
Uncrustables.
those were great.
All right, so I was told we can play this Sapuli reveal. We'll jump into that. Very clean, just fly up into Sapuli. So if we want to use that as a segue to talk about
Yeah,
what that is,
I mean, we
and
can
dig into
we can talk
Kathari.
about what you're seeing in that visual. So, Sapuli, if I'm not mistaken, is the capital for the Kathari, but it's located in Europa, which is a moon of Jupiter, and it's a ball of ice. There's actually a really fascinating sort of set of existing science in the real world around Europa as a very likely source of life in the solar system, because there is a subsurface ocean, and that has been confirmed by Cassini probe and a number of other scientific instruments. There's actually a really fascinating set of science on how they determine that there's water under the icy surface. So, this makes for, in lore, a really interesting place for one group of civilization trying to survive to go. Because ice, water, right? Not all ice involves water, but in this case, there is a strong assumption, from existing science that there is liquid water under the surface there. And so, this is where the Kathari go, and they go there and meet with the struggles of living in a freezing ball of ice pretty quickly. And among these struggles is a struggle to produce food, and from a variety of circumstances, the hardships that they endure here lead them to infertility, and the infertility leads them to cloning. And so this is why Kathari are clones, because they had a real sort of genealogical pressure that happened, after they left Earth and were forced into this pathway. They didn't sort of elect to go down this path of their own free will. They were driven there, and as a result, they become master cloners, and they are able to sort of propagate themselves that way. And I don't play Kathari in the game really at all. As we will see, I have very little insight into the useful cards, but I think the Kathari lore is probably the most interesting. It just really, really cool narrative potential. And we see that with a variety of different cards. One is Gnaeus Valorous Alpha. The Gnaeus card, he says something like, when I'm reborn, I choose to keep my scars as a reminder of who I was. So this theme of rebirth and sort of the ability to literally reflect on oneself as a real person is mind-blowing to me. I think the narrative potential of it is incredible. I think it's probably the most interesting visually and lore-wise faction. So it's ironic that I don't ever play it, but it is really cool to me, and I think the flavor text in so many of the cards lends this amazing lore And I think that, because we know that the next comic is focused on Kathari, I'm really excited for people to see more.
So a couple notes, and I feel like I'm going to have to do this forever now with Parallel because of the way that we've named everything. But the pronunciation for their homeworld is Sepuli, and every other Kathari name is just everyone's going to mispronounce. It's just the way that it is. So yeah, I'll do my best, but even I don't remember all the pronunciations. So I guess we'll make it up as we go along, kind of like we did the game. But yeah, I'm excited because this is one of my favorites, like Fitch said, lore wise as well. I kind of like there's like a bit of a body horror element to the whole thing too, where there's like, you get things of like masses of flesh with like 6 arms and all sorts of weird stuff. I'm kind of into it. We can all go watch Infinity Pool when the stream is over if you guys like that sort of thing. But yeah, okay, let's dig in.
Yeah, what was the card, Rebel? Maybe you remember where the guy's holding himself as he's dying, and he's like reflecting on his own death. Like, I mean, these kind of themes are just mind blowing to me. Like, I think that's what draws me to the Kathari. There is the body horror element, like Koji talked about, and I think that's a whole set of appeals to a certain audience. And for me, it's like the mortality and the reflections on the line being blurred between being immortal functionally and being mortal, as in seeing yourself die, right? Seeing like a literal genetic version of you die. It's just crazy to me. And in the Neus Valorous card, he's touching a relief of himself on the wall. Like, it's a statue of him. So he's both a historical legendary figure and a living real person in real time. Like, that aspect of the Kathari is so cool. And I think it's what makes me feel like they're probably the most interesting faction in terms of the lore. And I would dare say even the art.
Fitch is our resident crypto philosopher. So
yeah, I love it. Last week we talked about we got a chance to kind of geek out a little bit on the lore and kind of how you're handling the challenges of getting that deep lore out there outside of the like TCG game because of the challenges of doing it through that type of media. And so you mentioned that comic, and I'm wondering, like, it sounds like that might be how you're expressing a lot of the lore. And maybe could you tell us a little bit about those comics? We don't need to get bogged down in it. I know we all want to see talk about the decks and see what Ali and Austin spun up, but just maybe like what are those comics from before? What did they talk about? And maybe what should we expect to kind of come out a little bit from the Kathari side in this next upcoming comic?
Yeah, I mean, without revealing anything, there's a clear place where the last comic left off, right? The last comic focused on Earthen, and so we see it's amazing for anyone who hasn't read it. Ali, like, I got to get you. I'll add your ETH address so that you can like read. We have a system where like you can whitelist someone to read your comic that you own. So I'll get you added to that because it's really amazing. We worked with Raid Comics, who does Marvel and DC, and they're like super good. The story came together really well. Shout out GL and Callie and everybody working on that. But it was Earthen focused, and so you're on Earth, and they are basically discovering the priming. So that's what the first comic is focused on. And the priming in the lore, for anyone who's not familiar, is the maturation of the reaction that caused the initial cataclysm, right? So it's basically now become this massive, superpowered energy source located on Earth, and it's reflected via the prime crystals. So they discover it, and the end is kind of like this arcing set of light and energy, emanating in the sky, and in another panel pans to Kathari scouts seeing this. And so Kathari scouts, an advanced team, is already on planet Earth. And that's kind of where this transition into the next comic picks up from. And so, obviously there's going to be some level of interaction potentially with, Earthen. And you're going to see some of the titular characters from Kathari, represented, Magna, Emeritus, etc. So that's as much as I can say without kind of saying too much. But, a lot of what happens actually does end up happening on Earth, but with a Kathari lens. So.
Yeah, very cool. Can't wait for the movie whenever that comes out. Yeah,
Same.
without saying anything, obviously. It sounds like a movie. It really does express kind of what you were saying before, that this was like, it started as like a cinematic, like expression of story and art, and then worked its way into a game. Kind of, Koji, you were commenting on that last week, so that definitely comes through. So thanks for sharing. It's all super exciting stuff.
Yeah, I think like there's so many ways that the lore will come through. Obviously, the art is probably the primary vector. You know, the flavor text is like super good, and I would really encourage people to read the flavor text. Those guys smashed it. I have to imagine Connor is like a major driver of that flavor text. It has a very strong element of him in how it's written, but it's so good. It's like really, really brings it to life. Obviously, we have cinematics, which I think we've alluded to the fact that we're going to be putting out more of those this year. And, you know, also comics and probably other types of media explorations as well. So yeah, it's the lore remains my favorite part of Parallel. You know, as much as I enjoy the game, I've said a number of times I wasn't a big TCG guy. It was always the lore for me, and I think the lore is best in class. I don't think anyone in Web3 matches us in lore. And the fact that it's still so relatively unexplored is exciting because there's all this new stuff that's going to come out. So.
Yeah, I think last time we also talked about the different play styles the last few times, and like how Earthen was very like control and sustain decks, and previously it was very aggressive like power decks. Where does Kathari fall into play there, and like what does the strategy generally look like for playing with Kathari?
I think Michael should answer this one because he used to crush us on a regular basis with Kathari decks, especially in the early days.
That's true.
Where does it fall, sir?
I think it really depends on the Paragon, which is a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I would say ATO is like hard control, like the hardest possible control that you can, or at least that's what you want to be doing. Naeus and Scipius, I think, are probably a little more mid-rangey. They're really good at getting out onto the board. Naeus is really good at sort of scaling his units and sort of making them bigger and better every turn. Very annoying to deal with. And Scipius is a bit more sort of like board flood sort of strategy, similar to maybe like a token druid kind of deal if you're familiar with Hearthstone.
That's really interesting. And yeah, just thinking like how also that ties into a lot of their lore and backstory, especially with like the clones and stuff. Like after hearing that, my assumption was definitely like, okay, it's gonna be flood. But it's good to hear it that there's also very hard control and other aspects to it that will bake into that lore as well.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of took some of the themes of like genetic engineering and cloning and thought like, okay, well, what could you do with it? I mean, the obvious one is like, let's just take one thing and copy it 1,000 times so we just have like a giant army. But when Michael mentioned ATO, the idea of the character as a mad scientist who basically just takes all of the genetic material of all of your stuff and just mashes it into one big monster and hits you in the face with it is like, to me, that would just seem like the most, again, like we're going to body horror things or whatever, but it just seemed like the most weird, interesting thing that you could kind of do, because we were thinking of essentially it's like an OTK, but we were thinking of like, what could you put on a card that would make it more fun than just like, if you do this, you win the game. So the idea thematically of just like taking all of your units basically and just smashing them together into this one giant like Akira style flesh monster, and then killing your opponent with it, I thought, yeah, cool. So
yeah, I think that would be a good segue as well to start talking about some of the different paragons. I know you mentioned ATO, so I'm not sure if you want to start there.
Well, do we have a deck prepared? Maybe we should start with that deck and go from there.
Okay. Yeah, Allie, do you want to kick yours off?
Sure. Should we start with ATO's? That was Austin's deck, so let me just pull that up 1 second. Oh wait, how do you say it? ATO or ATO?
Yeah.
ATO.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So ATO Exalted Hydralist. The passive ability is the first time each turn a friendly Kathari unit enters the field, waste the top card of your deck. And then the active ability is Muster. If you have no cards left in your deck, create a 1/1 Kathari iterant that gains all the stats and keywords of units in your waste. This iterant ignores defender and immediately attacks the enemy. So basically, what we're just talking about is you make a giant unit at the end and bonk them in the face. So very, very cool. So I guess the general goal of the deck is to be wasting the top cards of your deck and trying to make 1/1s and do cool synergies with them. A lot of the big threats in the deck are to boost the ability at the end, and there's some cool cards that were added in here to make use of that. So we've got the Commandeered Warship, which is giant 8 energy, 5/10. At the start of your turn, this unit deals 4 damage to 2 random enemy units or enemy target. So it can also go face as well. So at the end, 5/10 in stats, it's going to get added to the big 1/1 as well as being useful with its ability. Another one we've got that we'll add to the end here is the Galleon Orator. This unit costs 1 less to a minimum of 1 for each friendly unit that are named Kathari iterant on the field. Muster, pick any unit on the field. That unit becomes a 1/1 iterant with no abilities. Hold on, it's kind of small, so I can't read it. The one thing I thought that was cool about this particular card is that you can pick any unit on the field and make it a 1/1. So you could do it to your opponents if there was something really scary on the board, correct?
Yep.
Yes. The one thing that is like super important, because this, I mean, I know Michael ran into this a couple times in the beginning, and I definitely did as well. The like homunculus that you make at the end of the game, potentially, if you get that far, has all the abilities of all the cards that you've played. So if it ends up the only unit on the field, you could accidentally turn it into a 1/1.
Ooh.
And then you'd be in big trouble.
There's a couple traps like that that I've
Oh,
fallen into many
man.
times over and over again because I have a terrible memory.
Wait, so is it random that it
No,
creates
it's
1/1, or
targeted, but
Yeah, it's
Okay.
targeted, but if it's the only target, you have to target it.
got it.
And
All right.
so-
Well, then
Yeah.
something to keep in mind then, just in case.
Yeah, and hey guys, I know there's definitely some people out there that if you have like an Eli 5 there on what you're talking about, maybe as far as strategically, like maybe what is a 1/1, like what is the impact? How should people think about that, or maybe how do you think about it in maybe more noob terms for anyone out there?
Like just explaining why it would be bad of what we just discussed.
Yes.
Basically, the 1/1 iterant would get all of the stats. So, it would gain the 5 attack, the 10 health, all these different cards that you've played throughout the game. And then one of the abilities says that you can target a unit and make it a 1/1. And so you basically would negate all of the
benefits
by nerfing your own card, essentially. So you wouldn't want to go for the bomb if there wasn't something else on the board to be able to, because you have to utilize the ability, so you need a target for the 1/1. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Cool. Another really, really cool card is Odious Cytokinetic Legate. It's a legendary unit. When this unit is destroyed, create 2 6/6 Autian Legionnaires with the following ability. When this unit is destroyed, create 2 3/3 Autian Legionnaires, and then it creates 1/1. So the way Austin put it was that it's basically Russian nesting dolls of units as it gets destroyed. So it's a really hard to deal with, and it keeps providing value over time. And so that would also get added to the big thing at the end as well. Some of the other core cards in the deck, so that's like kind of the fun stuff that adds to the big thing at the end. but we've got the Alkaline Hydraulist with the muster ability, waste the top card of your deck. So that's just a little 1/1 that's going to be, helping you waste your cards. We've got the Voice of Europa. As long as this unit is on the field, the first time you create a 1/1 iterant, each turn create an additional one. So you're, like I said, you're trying to make a bunch of 1/1s and do cool things with them. Let's see. What are some other things that are cool about this? You've got the Infused Core that can kind of help you ramp to your higher costed stuff. And it's a relic that reads, place a banked card face up under this relic. That card produces 2 energy each turn. If this relic leaves the field, waste the card underneath. When this relic is destroyed, you lose 4 health. So just anything to kind of get you to your, expensive stuff faster is nice.
Really quickly, I noticed this is also another huge trap that we learned by doing. There's Tabula Rasa in the deck. Tabula Rasa reads muster. So when you play it, spend all remaining energy and then reveal a banked unit with a cost equal to the amount of energy spent. This unit transforms into a copy of the revealed unit and becomes a clone. So basically on its own, it would allow you to potentially, sort of cheat out a card from your bank, so you can bank an early card and then kind of replay it later. The problem is if it becomes part of your giant homunculus unit and then it gets transformed into a unit in your bank, you lose your giant again.
Wow.
And thus do not do the max amount of damage. So you have to be super careful.
See, when I was going over the Kathari cards, I really feel like it's a harder parallel to deck build for, because there's a lot of interactions I feel like that are going to be tricky. And so you better really know what you're doing. And a lot of this is probably going to be solved when you actually get to put this stuff to the test. And you learn the hard way when you accidentally, mess up your big turn. But in general, I will say that it's a very, very cool parallel. And I think a lot of like high level deck builders are going to have a good time with it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the idea here was like I've played a lot of games. I know that you have, and probably anyone else here who's played card games, is like the mill strategy is always a big strategy in card games that allow you to do that sort of thing. But we thought it would be fun to kind of put in a strategy that's self mill. And so basically you're putting like a timer on the game. If you can get rid of all of your cards in your deck, you'll win. But A, you have to make sure you have the right cards in your deck. And B, you have to make sure that you don't die before that happens, because it, like Hearthstone or any other game, once you hit 0 cards, you start losing life pretty quickly. So,
I think that's really cool, because mill just in general, even if you're milling your opponent, that's also sort of always been a risky thing because you're giving them cards, right? So you applied that concept to the self mill and did it in a really cool way. So really neat. Okay, let's see. I think we talked about a lot of key cards here. Let's see if there's anything else. Disciple of Meritus. Let's take a look at that. The Disciple reads, when a Kathari unit is destroyed, put a counter on this unit. When this unit is destroyed, create a 1/1 iterant for each counter. Yeah, so just more 1/1 creations and that kind of thing. So I feel like we talked about the general gist of the deck and some things that could potentially go wrong. So,
I mean, I think this is Michael's favorite deck, or used to be anyway. So he might have some notes.
Yeah, this is pretty much the only deck that I play, just because I am obsessed. It's so good. The version that I built is much more control based. Like, my strategy is basically just like, all I care about is getting to an empty deck so that I can play this giant monster and murder my opponent with it. So I have a ton of card draw, a bunch of removal, and like that's pretty much it. It's very fun. It doesn't always work because it's very slow, but yeah, it's a good time. I'm also noticing another trap in here with Meritus. So Meritus's muster ability is select 2 units from your waist. It gains the stats of one and the abilities of the other. So when you play your monster, it then looks into your waist and asks you to pick new stats for it, basically.
Oh my gosh.
So,
okay, yeah.
you know,
I'm excited to tell Austin about this.
I've
I'm
made
about
all
to-
of these mistakes in person,
yeah.
and that's the only reason why we know that they're mistakes. So
Well, that's how you learn. Right? You got to put it to the test. So,
Yep.
Very cool. All right. Well, I'm happy to move on to the next one if you guys are.
Absolutely.
All right. Pull up my deck. I had the problem when creating this deck of, wow, there's so many cool things, and I'm probably gonna get run over if I don't dial it back and like put in like a better curve of like low costed stuff. So, yeah. So I went with Scipius Magnus Alpha. It has the passive. Whenever you bank a unit, if you do not already have a clone named Scipius Adjutant, create a 1/1 clone named Scipius Adjutant. Man, these words are hard. I just want to say. And the active ability is muster. Trigger all muster abilities that you have activated this game with targets chosen randomly. So the general idea is to really, play into cool muster cards, have a lot of them that have really good utility to help you kind of control the game. And then at the very end, you have another big, kahuna of triggering all the different muster abilities that you played that game. So, and there are other cards that help copy the muster abilities, so you don't have to just play them the one time or at the very end. And so I'll go over a couple of those cards. So there's the Rousing Signum. The first time a friendly Kathari iterant is created on your turn, pick one non-leader unit and trigger its muster abilities. So, that's just another way to get more triggers out of them. And maybe I should say what some of those useful abilities are. So the Black Market Fixer, it's just a universal unit. With the muster ability, destroy an enemy unit of your choice with an energy cost of 2 or less. That's just like stuff to help you survive. Got the T Interceptor, which is 5 energy, 3/3. Muster, you may deal 3 damage to a unit of your choice. So again, like the other one was destroy 2 or less. This one's deal 3. And then you've got the Formatician's Exalt. I think this is just a really good card. It's 4 energy, 2/4. With muster, draw a card. If this unit enters your waist from anywhere other than the field, create a 1/1 iterant. So, it's got a way to create another clone, and obviously card draw is important. I just think that's a really good card. And then something like Saboteur, it's a unit with the muster ability, destroy an enemy relic of your choice. So that's sort of just useful muster abilities that can get copied. And then, let's see. There's also Meritus Atian Recombinant. With the muster ability, select 2 units from your waist. This unit gains the stats of one and the abilities of other. We talked about this a little bit earlier. So, with each turn, you're banking a card. It doesn't feel as bad, to have some important cards in your deck because there's ways to sort of bring them out or trigger their abilities. If you guys ever if I'm rambling and you need to interrupt,
No, you're nailing it basically.
Okay, sounds good.
That's sort of the idea behind this deck is it's kind of like I don't know how to explain it, but kind of like a blank slate playground sort of scenario. It's just like, okay, try and find all the musters you think might be helpful to you, and then just like let this bomb go off. But the thing is, they're targeted randomly as well, so who knows what could happen? It's kind of wacky and unpredictable, which is both fun and absolutely frustrating. So you never know. I this is like for me, I play this deck once in a while just to. It's almost like a Rube Goldberg device. At the end of the day, I'm just like, okay, let's see what happens here when I push this like marble into the rest of this and see the machine kind of go off. And sometimes it's a incredible result, and sometimes I'm like, how dare you? How dare you? Because you can
Yeah.
destroy your own stuff by accident, right? Like you're destroying a unit with like 2 or less health, and sometimes it's your own, and you're just like, I needed that.
For sure. I mean,
But yeah, it's kind of fun.
for those people that are watching that are maybe Hearthstone players and like the wackiness, this definitely has like a little bit of RNG in it, but I don't feel like it's so much RNG that it's that tilting. I mean, well, I guess I'll have to see after I play it, but I feel like it's
You
a
can at
healthy
least
amount
control
of
it a little bit. Like you have control over what muster abilities you're putting in your deck.
correct.
Yeah.
As cards are released in future expansions, like you'll be able to sort of tighten your deck list so that it's a bit more consistent. But
This isn't quite like a Yogg surround
full
scenario.
praise God, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So some cards that I put in the deck that I think are sort of like the muscle before the end game trigger that I think are really cool are some chonky units here. The sixth palm of Galley with the muster ability, place 6 counters on this unit. This unit has +1/+1 for each counter on it. And then whenever the unit takes damage, it negates that damage and removes a counter. So, and then eventually when it runs out of counters, it gets destroyed. But it should theoretically be a more difficult unit to answer, and it'll be, a 6/6 in stats. So I think that's really cool. I have a question. With the Scipius's ability, trigger all muster abilities that you've activated this game, the muster ability of the 6th palm reads place 6 counters on this unit. So will the counters be put on any unit, or does it have to be a 6th palm of Galley to get that muster ability?
So here's kind of part of the problem. Well, not a problem, but I guess just like the outcome is basically like it will place 6 counters on any unit, but those counters won't do anything because the rest of the text on the card isn't part of the muster ability.
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of a if that's the end goal, it's kind of a red herring. Like it's not going to keep cards alive longer or make them stronger or really do anything. So
You just have to also have a 6 palm of Galley on the field and have it randomly go there.
yeah, right.
Seems easy, right?
Spray and pray. Yeah.
Well, then I guess that's like sort of in line with the other card that was chonky that I put in this. We might have to go back to the drawing board considering knowing that now. But the other one was the Chem Crazed Bruiser with muster. Place 3 counters on this unit, and then it doesn't take damage. And then when it does, it removes the counters, destroys it, kind of thing.
So the only other thing is that the target, because the targets are chosen randomly, it could potentially hit your enemy's units as well. So just
right.
Keep that in mind as well.
It sounds fun. It's a gamba a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think another important card in this is the Galleon Recombinant. That's the muster ability. Create a recombinant clone. The clone is either a 2/2 clone with target friendly units abilities or with its stats. So, you can kind of pick and choose if for some of those useful cards that I mentioned, you could copy their abilities, or if you were looking for, pressure, you could gain the stats. So I feel like that's a pretty important card. And we talked about the Galleon Orator with Austin's deck, but again, I think it does make sense here as well. So it costs 1 less for each friendly unit named Kathari Iterant on the field. And then you can pick any unit on the field. That unit becomes a 1/1, no abilities, and then it creates 2 1/1s. Yeah, so I feel like that's some of the cool stuff going on in this. Oh, I think another one that I should just mention real quick is the unnatural selection. Discard a random card and then draw a card. If the card is a unit, draw 1 more and create a 1/1 iterant. So, you're just trying to create more clones. Most of the cards in this deck are units. There's only a couple of relics and then maybe, like 1 Annihilate, which I'm a little sus of now. But generally speaking, I feel like that card should get a reasonable amount of value.
I have yet to build a deck without an Annihilate in it. So
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm like, just one at least, you know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that neither deck that we saw had Seeing Triple, which I think is maybe the best Kathari card.
Yeah, I absolutely I saw this sort of at the end, and I was like, that seems good. And I just and I didn't put it in. But yeah, create 3/1/1 Galleon Iterants with Defender. I was worried that I'm gonna die too quickly with this
Sure.
with this deck, and then Defender could be pretty cool. So yeah, I do think we missed on that one, honestly.
Michael, I'd love to hear about kind of how your deck differentiates from the two that you saw here, and like what you would pick apart. I know you mentioned some changes to like what Austin put together.
Yeah, I have to have it built in the game client, so I'll have to look at it in there real quick. So let me load that up. But basically, it's just very tight and streamlined. Pretty much every card either draws more cards, removes cards from the top of your deck, or does something to help slow the game down so you can make it to turn 7. And if you can succeed, the units in the deck that are now in your discard pile or your waste will provide enough power to just like instantly kill your opponent. And typically by the time I get there, they're at like 20, 20 health anyway. So even if it's not a full like 30, it usually does the trick. The one sort of combo that I'll talk about, which is probably like the key to this deck, is the card Seeing Triple that we just talked about. And there's another card called Etian Subjugate. And both of these together are really quite good. So Etian Subjugate is a 3-cost 1/3 that says every time a friendly clone enters the field, pick a unit. It gains +1/+1, then waste the top card of your deck. So a lot of times on turn 7, I'll save both of those cards and I'll drop the Etian Subjugate and then right behind it play Seeing Triple. So then, immediately this card is the one that I'm buffing most likely. And this one will get +3/+3, and I've just wasted 3 cards off the top of my deck. And even better if you have 2 of these on the field at once, like things get a little nutty, and you can really rip through your deck really quickly. So there, are definitely times where I can just like straight up win on turn 7 through the sort of like ATO OTK. Other times it takes a little bit longer, but I'm trying to pack like enough tools to make that happen. One of those tools that I don't think we talked about yet was a card called Genetic Correction, which is a very cool Kathari sort of like control option. It costs 2. It's an effect, and it says transform the enemy unit of your choice into a copy of a friendly unit. So a lot of the times you'll have a 1/1, just like a generic 1/1, and you can just point this at whatever you don't want to be on the board anymore and turn it into a 1/1. Pretty cheap and effective. I also obviously play 3 copies of Annihilate because yeah, you have to, especially in a deck like that, alongside the PS8 launcher, which I think we might have talked about last time, which is just super simple. Costs 1, deals 2 damage to any unit. You can kind of clean up a lot of early game units that way.
One thing I'll mention about Austin's deck, and I think about the Paragon in general, is he included some cards that had beefy stats and had pretty good abilities, but I think the abilities, like the homunculus unit at the end gaining the abilities, is actually a bit of a red herring. It's more harm than help. As an example, like the idea is that it's just gonna like be a huge thing that swings in the face and kills the enemy, so you don't need to worry about abilities that like at the end of turn deal damage or do anything like that, because there's not going to be an end of turn. You're going to win when you create this giant thing. And one thing that you really got to be careful of, because it used to happen to me a lot, is I would put cards in the deck, units especially, that when played gave me some form of card draw, which I thought was like amazing. But if you have no cards left in your deck and you build this giant homunculus unit, and then it's like, okay, draw cards. You end up decking yourself before it's able to hit the opponent in the face, and you lose. Like there were so many times that I was like, okay, I made it to the OTK, and then I'd play it, and it would just like it was I'd kill myself. So you got to be a little careful.
Needless to say, I will not be playing this deck. You guys have fun.
I will tell you how to play it.
Yeah,
By far my favorite deck in the game.
Yeah, this one sounds like you need some pretty advanced TCG skills to put something that can work together. Lots of traps there. I'm wondering maybe kind of what your experience is, guys, on playing. Like, who's Kathari good against, and maybe who are they bad against in your experience? I guess just as a generalized high-level concept. Do you have any takes there or thoughts?
Or any sworn enemies in the lore, maybe that they.
Sworn enemies in the lore, definitely Core. They've had some issues in that area of space that will be explored in future material. In the game, I would say that at least when I'm playing the ATO deck, I typically have pretty strong matchups into Earthen, Shroud, other slow decks. Well, there's one exception to Earthen and to ATO in general, but I'll talk about that after. Markolian can be a little bit tricky if they can sort of race you before you can hit that ATO, as well as other faster and wider Kathari decks can be an issue. You don't have a ton of tools with dealing with like a really wide board, so you're like really reliant on your defenders to like prevent you from taking too much damage before you can pull it off. Okay, the one like direct counter to ATO, which used to be played a lot in Earthen decks, but I don't think is played that much anymore, is a card. I can't remember what it's called. Koji, you can probably correct me here, but it's
Second chances.
Yeah, second chance. It's both players shuffle their wastes back into their deck, and then all of a sudden you have to start all over again.
Yeah. Straight up hard counter.
Yeah,
right. I'm taking notes now.
So I'm glad that cards has been out of favor recently, but I'm scared for the day when it comes back in.
So I mean, we covered Earthen. I'll just really quickly. At one point, Lifewell still does play all the cards in your deck when you hit a certain threshold, but in a different iteration of the game, it was a lot easier to pop off. So people were just throwing in second chances in their decks so that it would just infinitely loop. Like Lifewell would hit, it would reset all the cards back in your deck, keep playing those cards. It would hit another. Second chance. It would hit another second chance, put those cards back in your deck, and obviously that's not so healthy for the game.
Clearly
if you just sit there and just watch the computer automatically play cards for your opponent infinitely until you die. So we had to make a quick change, and thus second chance is not played as often anymore. But if you really wanted a silver bullet and you knew that Kathari was in the meta, you throw that in there, and then if it doesn't work out for you or like you don't need it, you just bank it. So
that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat demanding streamed gameplay during this alpha release.
Yeah, I see Taylor in there.
We're gonna have to put a lot of this.
We may have to give the people what they want. I don't know.
We're gonna have to put a lot of this.
We'll see. Allie versus me. Loser eats peanut butter.
Oh, that's actually a good one.
I actually had to do that once, but it was Vegemite. If you guys know Vegemite in Australia, it was a face-off. So I don't recreate that memory for me.
What does it taste like?
Oh, it's just like
peanut butter.
It's really, really salty. Like
it's salty,
Australians like you like it because you grew up with it, but most people on this planet think it's disgusting. So it's not good.
Sounds pretty intense.
Well, nothing should be called Vegemite. That's just a horrible name. We need a rebranding.
They didn't do a great job with the name. I agree. Yeah, maybe next for the grand finale here, right? Because we got one more of these in the regular arc of the series, and that will be just before Alpha. So I mean, if the people have spoken, the people have spoken.
Episode 6 might be
I love how I started this by saying we're not going to stream, and then or like streaming's not allowed for Alpha, and then ending this basically being like, actually, just kidding. We're gonna
Give
stream
the
even
people what they
before.
want.
Jury's
Yeah.
still out. Jury's still out.
But I think that would be fun, certainly. So
Yeah, we'll see how sleep deprived I am if my defenses are low enough.
Already making excuses, Koji? I don't know, man. Get some sleep.
No, not for losing. I meant for actually letting us stream it. No. I'll probably lose regardless, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Did you-
Chat's saying PB bet is set, and that someone's eating
It's
a
set,
nice
100%.
PB and L.
we're through.
PBNL, I like that. Well, hold on. If we figure out a way to make this happen, even if we play off stream and we kind of just post some highlights on stream or something, I feel like there should be a equal punishment for
Yes.
the loser that's not Ali, should they lose.
100%. What is distasteful to you? What would be annoying and cause you discomfort?
Yeah,
Me?
like
Yeah.
fried scorpion
Oh.
from Thailand or something crazy.
Yeah.
I'm the worst person to ask that because I'll literally eat anything. Like I've eaten
my
grasshoppers and all that stuff before. It doesn't bother me. Like my most hated food is probably, I don't even know, like a tomato or something, but I'll eat that. I'll still like bite into tomato if I have
Eat
to.
a
It's not
raw
big
Yeah,
onion
deal.
what about the hot chip challenge? We did that with another
Yeah.
game. Whenever
We
had
could
those
also
other
make you tweet something super embarrassing. Well, it's not like, you're
I do that every day.
Forget the thing.
I
That's the
retract.
problem. I also really like spicy food, so I mean, bring it on, whatever you want.
This is
You-
tough.
We'll
Well,
figure it out. We'll,
yeah,
we'll
let's
find
let
something.
chat go at it. Let's let chat go at it. See if they can cook something really
Well,
distasteful up
Just-
that Koji has.
if you guys think of something absolutely horrendous, just tweet at us
Yes,
You can just
and
Carolina
let us
Reaper.
know.
Koji
Just let us
should
know the
do
nonsense.
X
Eat a
something
raw,
like
eat
that.
a raw
Yeah.
Carolina
at
Reaper.
at parallel TCG
Well,
pod.
Yeah,
I don't know if
Brian
that's
Carolina
equivalent
Reaper's
to
easy.
peanut butter. Let's like I'd have to feel that one going in and coming out. So I'm not sure that's fair.
Look, Ali really hates peanut butter. Okay, it's
Yeah.
whatever we make you do is
Yeah.
fair. All right,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Just don't lose. That's
There
that
you go.
simple. Just don't lose.
That's true.
Simple,
That's true.
simple as that. Did
You've
you
had,
see in the
you've
chat?
had
that he said-
practice, and Ali is not. So I think
I'll get
You know.
Jordan to play for me secretly.
Oh, yeah, that'd be in rough shape there.
Uh,
To play Jordan. Somebody said every time Mr. Gone says homunculus, take a shot. I'm pretty sure chat would be pretty wasted at this point. So maybe we should, err on the side of caution.
guys, I'm just a big fan of. Why can't I think of the name of it now? That anime with the brother who's a suit of armor. Oh my god!
Full Metal
I'm with
Alchemist
you there.
Brotherhood?
Yes, Full Metal. All the versions of Full Metal Alchemist. They love homunculi in that anime. So, because this is the Kathari episode, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out Carson. He is the one who came up with a lot of the lore and the names and the functions of the cards, and is a good friend of mine and an employee of Parallel. So shout out Carson. Thank you for your hard work, sir, and your impronounceable names.
Smashed it. Honestly, the names work so well. I have like the running joke of just add any vaguely Roman sounding thing and you've got a Kathari, but it works really well. Like it all comes together so nicely. Like the art, the flavor text, the names, it makes you feel like it's real. And I think, like I said earlier on, like that's my favorite part of Parallels, the feeling of realism. Like, oh my God, this is an actual universe that could exist,
Card game players love to come up with nicknames, like create their own names for cards. So it'll be interesting when the world gets their hands on it. What names they'll come up with for cards.
We
that
have some
different-
already, Ali. We have Memento of the Fallen is called the Sticky Knife.
Okay.
What else do we have?
I don't know. I don't want to thrust these on anybody. I'm actually more curious to see what people come up with and how close it is to what we came up with internally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just calling out one that's well regarded at this point. The Sticky Knife it's the Sticky Knife.
It is.
That's the Sticky Knife. So.
someone's saying disco key.
Oh yeah, all the
Oh
keys.
yeah, well the keys have a whole other just bizarre set of nicknames at this point. Cardicon loves the. I'm sorry, I'm not allowed. Shell said I'm not allowed to say anything disparaging about Cardicon. I'm gonna just stop right now. But they love the keys.
Well, talking about cards and econ, I heard a rumor that you guys might load up our gumball machine here.
I think we'll have to.
Maybe
next week.
we do a big drum roll for the last one. We load up payload and potentially show some gameplay, a little challenge between Ali and Koji. I mean, that sounds like a fun way to go out for me. And it's Shroud, right? That's the one that we haven't done.
Yeah.
Yep.
And realistically, everybody loves Shroud. I mean, they're, you know, emo and sad boy energy, but people like them nonetheless. It's cool. People like edgy stuff. So
That's my whole life.
Yeah, there you go.
Web3's edgy.
Watch out, man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, that sounds like super exciting. My like entire role here is to try to pull as much alpha from everyone we talk to at all times, and to give the people what they want. And the people want that. And that last episode sounds like a fucking banger. So I'll be here.
All right, we'll go out with a bang then. That sounds good.
Let's do
We'll
it.
figure something out.
Peanut butter, hot peppers, payloads, and some gameplay.
Some gameplay. That sounds like a great time.
We could go like a TikTok trend embarrassing situation, like a dance, like the team does a dance.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Make Koji do a TikTok dance.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is an Achilles heel. My God, I would not.
There
be
we
able
go.
to do it. I just wouldn't be able to do
There
it.
we go.
Yeah,
I just
Ali
wouldn't
eats
be able to
peanut
do
butter.
it.
Koji.
We found it.
Yeah.
That's the
Fair
one.
trade.
Koji Dougie's for us.
I would try. I would try. Like there's been a few times that actually there've been a couple times where people have tweeted at us, you know, attractive women wearing parallel gear in like weird, you know, female only poses, and I was just like, I'll give it a shot. So if you want to see me sitting by the pool, or you want to see my midriff, it's up there. It's on Twitter.
This is actually incredible that this exists, but the pose with the hands.
Yeah, whenever somebody tries to tweet at us some like I don't know, alluring images, I'm like, I'm all in. I'll recreate it myself.
Somebody pointed out that we haven't done Ogden Core yet, probably because they're very forgettable. Sorry, CL, but we will also do Ogden Core. We won't skip them.
That's my second favorite deck. So
Well,
I'll
have
something to say.
Well, I'll just listen to what you have to say. But I think that we can still stick with Shroud for the next one. And then it'll be cool because by the time the Ogden Core episode happens, Alpha will have started already. So that'll actually be interesting because we can probably have a whole different set of types of discussions at that point. And we can, actually have kind of this same version of what we do here, but like people in the chat can in real time be talking about, decks that they're using. So we can kind of do Ali, Austin, and chat can go through some decks maybe. That would be pretty neat. Or at least people in chat can call out like highlights of things that they're playing that they're liking. So I mean that seems like a great way to go. We'll stick with Shroud for the next one and then do some of those fun activities we described and round it out with Ogden Core.
Yeah, I think so. We have 2 episodes left, and the second episode coincides with closed alpha release. So I think next episode, Shroud, and we drop the payload, and then episode 6 in that coincides with closer to closed alpha release. We have 2 weeks to convince Koji to let us do this live stream match, and find a punishment for a loser.
Yeah, we will be 2 days into alpha for the final one, so we can go with that format. But I'm excited next time. We need to devise various torture methods for Koji here.
I mean, if I do win, I will take a victory spoon of peanut butter. So.
Well, there you go.
I never should have tweeted this. This is
No.
Did this
No,
to
you
yourself,
shouldn't.
Ali.
I did.
Yeah.
All right, well, this has been a great one. I think everybody's going to be super excited for that showdown and the punishment there. And I'm sure you're already getting tweets about what they want you to do, whether it's a dance or a hot pepper. But definitely love the reveal of Kathari here, and to get my own self back, because I said Sepuli at the start, or Sepuli at the start. It's Sepuli.
I didn't know that one.
So,
I had no clue.
Yeah, the double I gets you. But thanks
Okay,
again, guys,
we're in together.
for having us on. Thanks, Ali, for joining, and thanks to the Parallel team. See you in a week.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.